words work.
Yes.
But, hello! I feel like...
It's been a hot minute.
It's only been like a month since we looked at each other.
I know, it's been so fucking weird.
Firstly, like, for context, obviously we... So I had to actually edit into the last episode a disclaimer very early on because we very proudly declared, we're recording a double, so you'll have another episode next week, which then you just promptly hear my voice going, no, you won't, because we did tell each other our second cases, but neither of us hit record, so we just had a chat for 2 hours for no reason.
So we just chatted for 2 hours and then had an emotional breakdown afterwards when we realised that we had nothing.
It has just been schedule conflict after schedule conflict to try and redo it because, like, Christmas happened, then it was gonna be New Year's, but also you got COVID again.
Fucking again! Oh!
So,
bullshit,
it's like solidly into the new year now. It's like we're nearly 3 weeks into January.
No, we literally are. Like, Jesus Christ. But also I feel like January has just like fucking flown by.
It really has.
Like, I was like looking at the date today because I think I was like checking on something and I was like, oh yeah, it's like, you know, like, it's like a week from New Year's or whatever. And I like looked down and I was like, it's the 19th.
Yeah.
Y'all, it is the 19th. January's over in like a week and a bit.
It's
like
madness. How are you?
Like,
How's your
waking
month
up?
been?
I mean,
How was
I
the
have to say,
holidays?
fucking well, apart from getting COVID. No, it wasn't actually too bad, and it was kind of my own fault that I got COVID, so like, it's okay. Because my sister, Cindy, fucking got COVID Christmas Day. And so, yeah. She woke up Christmas morning, wasn't feeling very well. So I think she randomly had COVID test at home. So she did a COVID test and she comes out to me and she's like, meanwhile, I'm lying in her bed. She comes into me and she's like, so I have COVID? And I was like, cool. Well, you've got a week to, like, you need to give it to me quickly if you're going to give it to me, because I have a week until I have to go back to work. So, meanwhile, my mum was immediately like, oh, I've got to go! And like, raced to put on a mask and everything like that. I was like, wow, Mum, mother of the year. In her defense, though, she was going to see my pop, who is in hospital, so, like, I guess it's kind of fair.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't end up getting COVID until the Wednesday. No, Wednesday.
I think it was the Wednesday that I got the message from you when I walked up to Bean Pie. Yeah, because that was one of the scheduling conflicts. Like, we were waiting for you to come back from Walker, and then we were going to record. And then I just get the message from you that just says, I have COVID. Like, out of the blue, nothing else. Our communication skills are on point, because if we're not recording, it's literally like, here's 3 words, end of conversation.
I needed to get my point across that, like, oh, I don't know about recording, I feel kind of good, but also, like, we had plans New Year's Eve, so I was like, oh, I don't know about that.
And then I got to feel really bad because I had to message you and I'm like, don't come over.
No, which is fair. Like, it was my second time of COVID, so I was, like, kind of okay. But at the same time, I slept through New Year's. Yeah. Like, I worked all day New Year's Eve because apparently you can go to work now with COVID. So, like, because I messaged my boss and I was like, hey, just letting you know I tested positive for COVID. Like, I feel fine though. Like, I had like a bit of a scratchy throat and that was it. Because it was my second time, so it was like nothing. I was like, do you want me to just like wear a mask and come to work? And he's like, yeah, that should be fine. And I was like, alright, bet.
Yeah, because there's no isolation requirements anymore. And at first it was that you could go to work if you didn't have any symptoms. Yeah. But now it's literally just wear a mask and go to work. And I'm like, that's
Just before everyone kind of, like, thinks I'm a cunt, I let all of my team members know as soon as they came in. Like, I was honest with all the team members. I was like, hey, just letting you know, I'm wearing a mask because I have COVID at the moment. Like, I'm halfway through, so technically I shouldn't be contagious, but just, like, heads up, I have COVID. So if you want to social distance from me, I will not be offended. I'm going to try and social distance from you. Like, 90% of them didn't care. There was only one girl who was a bit like, ooh, but I was like, oh, fair. Like, it's your own personal choice. I don't, obviously. Yeah. I'm not going to shit on her. Bless her, though. She came in while I was eating my lunch.
She's the worst.
No, she's so sweet. She came in while I was eating lunch, and so I was like, oh, fuck. So I was like, wait, I have COVID. And she's like, oh. And I was like, yeah, I'm so sorry. And she's like, I can't get that. And I was like, okay, do you want me to go into the office and eat so that you're fine? And she's like, no, it's okay. I'll get a chair and I'll sit over here, because she had food to eat before her shift started. Aww. And I was in the tea room, and she's like, no, it's okay. I'll just put my chair over here so, like, we can still talk, but we'll just be away from each other. And I was like, that's fair. As soon as I finish eating, I'll put my mask on. I'm so sorry. But it was so cute. But yeah, my entire New Year's was me sleeping, and then I woke up, glanced at the time, was like, oh, it's midnight. Cool, 2023. And then I went back to sleep immediately. So really reined it in hard.
To be fair, though, sleeping is what you do with 90% of your time, so, like, your spare time.
And it's great. You know what I really miss? I miss the appreciation and the acknowledgement of my sleeping from you, because at my new store, I just feel like people don't get it like you do.
Yeah.
It's just, like I said something about wanting to go home and have a nap, and they were like, you finish at 6 o'clock, and I was like, what's your point, mate?
Yeah.
I can go home, have a nap, wake up, watch a movie, do some stuff, and then go back to bed.
Well...
But what about you? How was New Year's without me?
New Year's was fun. I'm really excited because for Christmas, I got a cricket machine.
I know!
And so I'm, like, customizing everything.
I know. I love all of your little updates that you send me. I'm like, oh my god, it's so fucking cute. Oh my god, it's so fucking cute.
So this whole side of my office is now my cricket corner, which is, like, it's getting very cramped in here, but that's fine. I've got lots of crafting I can do coming up. We went to a horror maze on Saturday.
I saw that. It looks really cool.
And I made friends with a chainsaw-wielding zombie.
Nice.
So we did that, and literally they give you a flashlight. One person has a flashlight, and then you walk through, and they gave us the heads up at the start. Don't touch or walk through any black curtains, and we're like, okay, so that's where they come from. Cool. Which there's plenty of them scattered throughout, because apparently every week or so they change the actors, the costumes, and the locations so that it's different each time. I refused to give anyone else the flashlight, but I also refused to go first or last.
On brand.
Yes.
I'm not seeing any surprises here.
And then 9 times out of 10, I think the only time I actually jumped at a scare was because the friend at the back had the person come out from the curtain and grab them. And he jumped and bumped me, which then that scared me, because I was busy wondering what was in the giant washing machine. Because there was a washing machine with a door open, and I'm just like, oh, what's this? What's in here? And then he's jumped into me because there's like this 7-foot tall person covered in bandages grabbed him by the wrist. But most of the time my flashlight would fall upon a person and I'd just be like, hello. And then we really showed our dynamics of the friendship, because at one point a friend and I got cornered by a dude in like a wife beater and an akura with the giant, I think that's what those hats are called. Oh. He had 2 giant knives and was sharpening them, and he was just staring at her the whole time, and we're both, like, cornered in a doorway. So I've just sucked in, I'm like, think skinny, and scooted around him, and then be like, okay, bye, and started walking off, just leaving her there. But yeah, we got to the end and we were just standing there and like the room was full of fog and I'm like, this flashlight's doing nothing. I cannot see a thing. And that's when I hear in my ear, that's how I like it.
Oh!
And I turn and right next to my face, like so close that I can literally only see like one of their eyes, is a zombie just standing there. And immediately, out of awkwardness, because I didn't know what to do, just my automatic response, I was like, hi! And waved. And so the zombie was like, hello! And waves, and then just stands there. And I'm like, we're gonna go now. But
bye.
It was nice to
Lovely
meet you.
meeting you.
And he's like, okay. And we're like, bye. And then we've started walking. And that's when we hear the chainsaw start up behind us, so we've, like, legged it out. But throughout the rest of the night, the zombie just kept opening the door, because obviously he had nothing to do. Kept opening the door and just, like, glaring at everyone. But then we'd make eye contact and I'd wave and he'd wave back. And someone else would try to wave and he'd just glare at them. I'm
He's
like,
like,
yeah,
ew,
I'm
no.
the friend. Did you say hello to him? No, that's why you're not friends with him. Get to the end, and we're sitting there on the stairs having the photo taken, and we're like right in the doorway, which in the stairs of the open doorway, and there were like fans blowing. So when I felt my hair moving, I was like, oh, it's just the wind. No. Look back at the photos afterwards, and I can see he's literally stroking my hair.
Oh my god. He was like, my precious, my precious.
But yeah, that's been the notable things that have happened to me in the past month.
I love how your notable things are really exciting and mine is that I got COVID.
Yeah. It's what happens when you sleep all the time, though.
You know, I don't even have a defense for that. I like my sleep.
Okay, well, we've really forgotten how to do this. We should
really
probably
have.
introduce ourselves.
Oh, fuck, we haven't
But-
even done that.
No, to be fair, we haven't even spoken in a month, so
Exactly.
it'll be fine once we actually get back in the habit of recording weekly. Hopefully.
Surely.
You are listening to Rent Free in My Head, the podcast where we take the thoughts I don't remember.
Where we take the thoughts, blah, 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 squatting in our heads, set them up in yours, free of charge.
What
Each
she said.
week, Kirsten.
Sometimes we do actually talk about cases, but other times we just spend half an hour catching up with each other.
Talking about our lives.
Now, this week will be different, which when we failed to record it last time, we actually found this out organically, but normally, each week, Kirsten tells me a true crime tale.
Oh, yeah! We switched, didn't we? This is kind of good, but
We
me having
did.
like the worst fucking memory ever. I have no idea what my case was about.
I remember that it's in Texas,
It
and
is.
that's it. I do not remember a single other thing about it. So normally...
I can remember like one thing about it and I wrote it.
Normally, Kirsten would tell me a true crime tale, and then I would really infuriate her by telling her an unsolved mystery. However, for this episode, completely unplanned, because we don't tell each other what we're going to cover until the moment it happens, I chose to cover a crime that has been solved.
And I chose to cover something that has not been solved.
Which I'm very sad that we don't have the actual recording of the original episode, because we were so excited when we found that out.
We really were. I think, no, mine, I was going to say, maybe mine's been updated since then. Mine has not been updated since then.
I am going to quickly check that I am actually recording this episode. I am.
Fuck me. Okay, good, I am as well. I was like, Christ, I swear to God, I will neck myself if I'm not. I'm also just remembering that I feel like I played a bit of an interview for you, but I don't remember where that is.
I don't remember that.
Or what the context was for me playing the video. I'm assuming it had something to do with quotes. I don't know. I'm just going to open my entire research for it. Alright, you know what? Fuck it. Let's just get started.
You sent me a video. I'm looking at the Skype chat and there's a video.
Oh!
There's also
no,
the link.
it's just a screenshot. It's a screenshot because I was trying to show you
okay.
pictures. Why is
There's
there
also links to... There's links to Chicken Daddy's wall calendars.
Yeah, I was just
Both of these are from
like,
me. And the mermaid Christmas ornaments. That's right, because we were going to record a Squatters Anonymous talking about them.
They're so brilliant, we need to. I clicked on it again.
Oh, we do. Okay, we will get that on the books.
But in height, but like, just real quickly, I want one of these as like a stuffed toy, not as an ornament.
That's cute.
To like sit on my bed. Maybe the Daddy Ducky. What? Okay, I'm gonna stop looking. Oh my god, they get better the more I scroll. I need to look away, but I can't.
Yeah, I spent a whole night I think either a few days before we failed to record that episode because I went through the whole list and looked at them all, and they're just incredible.
I can't. Oh my god. Okay, I need to look away before I just fucking buy all of them, and they're ridiculously priced. Okay, cool. So I've named this case DNA-zing. Amazing. DNA amazing. That isn't flow. DNA amazing. I've tried to write DNA and then amazing, but I've used the A from DNA to write amazing.
I could get where you were going there. It just
DNA
wasn't
amazing.
executed
DNA amazing.
well.
DNA amazing. There we go.
The more you say it, it doesn't get any better.
It does, and I don't appreciate your negativity. Cool, so this is DNA amazing. Right! So, I remember absolutely nothing about this case, except that it has old people in it, because I can see the pictures. And I'm pretty sure it has
it's
kidnapping.
in Texas.
Woo! Okay, we're going to the 70s in America. Specifically, Texas! Oh my god, crazy! It's like neither of us knew that.
I'm a psychopath.
I mean,
psychic.
I don't think that's the right... Yeah, I was like, that's the wrong psi word.
I'm psycho.
You're something? Anywho. Fun fact, there's only one place called Earth on Earth, and it's in Texas.
I do remember this now.
It's such a dumb fact. Like,
where do you live? Earth. Okay, but like, where in Earth?
Can you imagine, like, if you were sending mail to an alien and you were writing your return address, you'd be like, return to Kirsten Brown, 12 Applebee's Avenue.
Don't give them your actual address.
Whoops-a-daisy, I've just doxed myself. 12 Applebee's Avenue, Earth, Texas, America, or do you say USA, United States? Who the fuck cares? It's America. Earth. And then the alien would be like, he'd read the first Earth and he'd be like, yeah, I know you're from fucking Earth. And then he would read the Texas and everything else and he'd be like, why did you write Earth twice? This person's dumb. They're just from Texas. What a loser.
Well, I mean, that tracks.
Oh my god, I was trying to explain to someone today, because I was so exhausted at work today. I'm not going to lie to you, I get dumber when I'm tired. And he was just like, he's like, so you start out dumb, and then when you're tired, you just get dumber and dumber. And I was like, yeah, yes. Basically, man. Like, there's not a lot going up here right now, other than I'm tired and want a nap. And he was like, you started at 11, and I was like, shh. That's not...
What's your point?
Yeah, I was like, please, no, shh. Just, baby, shh. Okay, so, Also, Texas
I'm
went...
just trying to think of the last time that I wrote an alien a letter, how I wrote my return address.
I'm just saying!
I don't have any alien pen pals, I only have zombie pen pals, and that's a new relationship.
Fun hack for you that I found out at my sister's baby shower. My sister's best friend apparently turned around to me and said that she reuses stamps if the postman doesn't stamp the stamp. And I was like, fuck me, that's so fucking smart. And she's like, yeah, she's like, you know how expensive postman stamps are these days? Fuck that. And I was like, you're a fucking genius, dude. Holy shit. Like, not that I really have to mail anything ever.
No.
But now if I ever get any mail and there's not a stamp on my stamp, I'ma just put that aside.
I totally check my mailbox.
When was the last time you checked your mail?
Probably like 6 months ago, because I always forget.
Jeremy! I checked mine on Monday!
Whoops!
Oh my god. You know what? I'm just gonna randomly start writing you letters so that you check your mail. And then it's gonna be like one-line dad jokes. Nothing else. No return address, no from, just dad jokes. I'll reuse all my
kind of the mail I already get, that's why I stopped checking it. The aliens won't stop sending me dad joke letters.
Gosh darn it, aliens! Pick me. Fuck Jeremy, I check my mail. Okay, anyway, I want to tell you more facts about Texas. So, Texas went 10 years as its own country. That's literally the only context I've written myself. What? America,
so it would have been before it was declared a state, I'm guessing.
No, Jeremy, I'm switching over to me interwebs now.
I have this weird new hobby. I'm really into watching Ring doorbell footage now.
That's an odd kink, but pop off.
Like, I've watched so many compilations of disturbing Ring camera footage. And actually, Mateo laughed at me a few weeks ago because I was watching something and someone died and it made me cry.
Someone died?
And then, yeah, and not on the Ring camera, like on a normal show. And he said, he looked over at me and he's like...
Ring camera, and I was like, what?
Yeah, I'm really into it. No, but he looked over at me and he's like, did you really just do you were crying? And then when the episode ended, you went, no, this won't do. Picked up the remote and immediately swapped it to disturbing Ring camera videos, sat back with your glass of wine and went, that's better. Anyway, now that I'm finished stalling, have you found an answer?
Yes, I also found some random other facts that I had to scroll past to get to it, and apparently it's illegal to milk someone else's cow in Texas, which, like, I get is an important law, because I'd be pretty pissed off if I had a cow and someone else stole my milk.
Fair.
But also, at the same time, I'd be okay if they milked it for me and then left the milk, like, in an esky by my front door, so I didn't have to wake up early to get it.
Yeah, but, like, maybe some people are just really... They really enjoy the grind. Well, I don't really want to say grind while talking about the process of milking.
You're like, enjoy the grind, and your hand is like gripping like you're fucking milking a cow.
I'm rock climbing.
That's looking like some bestiality shit right there, and I especially don't want someone touching my cow if you even did that.
I'm just milking it, Mum. What do you mean?
Don't wank my cow! Don't wank my cow. Title of the episode. Anywho, so, oh my god, did you know that Texas was a part of Mexico at one point?
That makes sense.
So, during the age of manifest destiny, wagon loads of American settlers. I don't even know what accent this is. Wait, should I do Southern Belle? Oh, Lord. Wait, I gotta get into it by talking about Jesus. Okay, I'm there. So during the age of the manifest destiny, wagon loads of American settlers came into Texas, which at the time was part of Mexico, and eventually decided that they wanted their independence. The Texas Revolution lasted from October 2nd, 1835 to April 21st, 1836. Culminating in the formation of the Republic of Texas. The country lasted just 10 years, and in brackets it says tough break, before it agreed to join the United States. It became the 25th state of the Union on February 19th, 1846. Anyway, so going back to the rest of these random little... Whew. I do remember where I was up to now.
Why did you just go Irish all of a sudden?
Don't know, Jeremy. Okay. The famous "Don't Mess with Texas" comes from an anti-littering campaign.
I vaguely remember you telling me that.
I was going to say you don't seem shocked, so I feel like you remember that one.
Yeah.
1985 dot. What the fuck have I written that? Christ. Memory strikes again. Anyway, so it was invented by an advertising company in 1985 for the that's why 1985 dot Department of Transportation. That makes sense now.
Actually, I'm pretty sure you had the same issue last time. You're like, why is it dot?
Fuck me, I really need to, start, because I feel like when I'm writing my notes, I'm like, yeah, I'll understand that, and then later I'm like, bitch.
No, I don't think it was you that had that issue last time. It was me when we did episode, I think 17, whenever I covered Frederick Valentic. Because I said to you, I'm like, I have all of these quotes from some person called Dot. Who the fuck is Dot? And then it got to the end when we realised it was Department of Transport.
See, I feel like DMV sounds so much better. But fucking Australia has to be fucking different. My favourite thing is that bomb. You know bomb?
They don't want to be called bomb anymore.
No, that's what I was just about to say. I love that. They're like, no guys, we won't be called bomb anymore. We're big kids. We're grown-ups. We have important information. Don't call us bomb. And everyone's like, okay, bomb.
Okay, bomb.
Whatever you say, honey. So bomb sent us a warning text about... Anyway. Oh, look, the next sentence is actually about my case. Look at us go.
Oh, what?
I'm really going to fuck up this lady's name, and I feel so bad. Alta Apantenko. I'm so sorry. Was working in Fort Worth, Texas as a waitress in 1971 and had an almost 2-year-old. It's 22 months, but that's a fucking dumb way of describing your child. Once it hits 18 months, you're no longer allowed to use months. Shut the fuck up.
I have a question. What's a Fort Worth in Texas?
I don't know, a fort that's worth a lot.
But what's a Fort Worth?
Just took my brain that long. Fuck me, I'm dumb. I'm just gonna go back to my earlier statement that the more tired I get, the dumber I get. Okay,
fair.
So she had a 2-year-old, basically 2-year-old at home. Being the boss-ass bitch she is, Alta obviously wanted to keep working and supporting her little family while she obviously was raising her fucking kid, which, pop-off queen, do what you gotta do. I don't really know, if she was with the dad, because I can't remember these notes, but, looking over, apparently the dad was in the picture. I'm assuming he also worked, and then it wasn't enough income, so then Alta wanted to keep working at her waitressing job, or maybe she was getting better hours now that the kid was a little bit older. Anyway,
Maybe.
So because of this, she was like, you know what, fuck, I can't exactly take my fucking terrible 2-year-old to fucking work at a waitressing job because, one, that's just an inappropriate spot to have a fucking kid.
Yeah.
If you're working. And two,
kids eat free.
Just really fucking annoying.
I don't fucking know. How often do you think I hang out with kids?
Not often.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
I think you, like, see them. You see them at work and you're like, ugh.
One,
just go the opposite way.
As I was getting off the train, I mean, you're not wrong. As I was getting off the train yesterday, I'm standing there at the door, and literally this kid sitting at the seat closest to the door just kept being like, bye! And I went, okay, bye. Bye! See ya. Bye! And I'm like, I'm sitting there going, kid, I already said bye. Leave me alone.
Why do you want me to say goodbye again? Has an emotional breakdown because a kid's saying goodbye to you more than once.
Yeah. I noticed as I turned and started to walk away, there was a bike behind me, so he might have been saying bike.
He's like, bike! And you're like, bye. And he's like, bike? And you're like, bye. And he's like, I'm fucking saying bike, bitch! There's a bike!
Enunciate!
He's a small human. What?
What? And I'm supposed to just, like, accept that as an excuse?
Yes.
No.
Okay, anyway, moving on from your meanness. Ulta decided to post an ad in her local newspaper looking for a babysitter to watch her daughter, Melissa, by the way, the kid's name is Melissa, while she was at work. You know, it's the 70s, people do weird shit like that. They post a little ad, they're like, yo, besties, looking for a nanny, hit me up.
They didn't have Craigslist yet, which is where you should look for a nanny, babysitter.
I've never used Craigslist. Also, don't do
that. I think it's not really an Australian thing, so.
It's like a market. I would say marketplace. Don't find a babysitter on Marketplace either, guys. That's fucking weird. Have some kind of connection with the person or get a professional. Okay, anyway, so Ulta ended up hiring a woman who claimed to have vast experience in childcare and who really wanted the job. So she was really eager, she had past experience, she was like, yo, I've got this, I've got the time, blah, 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 blah. So she looked really, really good on paper.
Yeah.
So, on Monday, August 23rd, 1971, which, fun fact, 1971 and 2021... calendars are the same.
That's
so you could
fun.
use a 1971 calendar in 2021.
Like, if you can't find any 2021 calendars in the store, just grab the 1971 that you got lying around.
You're fine. You're right. You're good.
Just hopefully, if you're someone who writes on your calendar, you have the same plans on the same days as you did.
Or you just wrote small.
30 years ago? Wait, 50 years ago?
I was like, the math ain't mathin'.
I am good at math, okay?
We're in the 20s.
I am aware. I turned 30 in less than 6 months.
Oh my god, I forgot that you were 30 this year.
Yeah.
Oh my god, yuck, that means I'm close to 30.
Not closer than I am.
I'm 3 years away, you're 6 months away.
I'm actually 5 months and 8 days away.
Right, on the Monday, Ulta left for work, leaving Melissa with her roommate to be picked up by the new babysitter. This is also why I was a bit confused about the dad situation, because the dad seems to be an active part of Ulta's life, but I don't know if they were, like, living together or married or whatever. All I know is that Ulta left and baby Melissa was left with the roommate, but it didn't specify who it was, but I don't think it was the dad.
Okay.
I mean, it's like, I don't know, maybe they lived, it was the 70s, they were poor, I assume. Anyway, so, Melissa was picked up by the nanny, but then she was never returned at the end of the day. So searches immediately began, but proved fruitless. And unfortunately, over the next 51 years, Alta and her family, including the dad, continued looking for Melissa. Yeah.
So that's 2022.
Yeah. Oh, so we're at 52 years. But it's okay. It's okay. We continue. So, the only information I could find on the babysitter was that her name was apparently Ruth Johnson. That's all they really had to go off. That's what those photos that I sent you. If you look at the one of the babies, that's what Melissa looked like when she went missing. So that's the only kind of photos that they had. I know, right? She's fucking gorgeous. So those are the only photos that they really had of her. And they didn't stop, looking for her at all. There was, in 2022, there was a possible sighting of Melissa, and the family travelled to South Carolina just to have a quick look.
Oh.
Just to see if it was her. It turned out to be nothing, which is kind of sucky. Melissa's brother, Jeff, so her parents went on to have, I think, 3 more children.
30?
2 more. I said 3!
I heard 30 and I was like,
Oh.
Okay, are they overcompensating? Did they not have a TV in their room? Was it just stress banging? What?
Me?
3 makes more sense.
We've all been there. Look, when you're stressed, sometimes you just need a good bang.
But then the more children they have, the more stressed they get, so then the more they bang.
It is a vicious cycle. Vicious, I tell you. Okay, so I think they had 3.
3. That's this many.
More. Either way, I really can't remember, and I'm not finding this. Maybe it was just 2, actually. Might have just been 2, a brother and a sister. No, there's 2 sisters. 2 sisters, yes, so 3. Fuck me, I'm so dead. Anyway, so Melissa's brother Jeff said, "We don't call it a failure. It opened other doors in trying to find her nationwide. They know we are looking for her and still care." So that was his statement after the 2022. I would literally just went to call it a failure when he literally just said it wasn't. What the fuck? Anyway, so then
you
Jeffrey
don't even remember
Highsmith,
things that you just said.
I really don't. Jeffrey Highsmith, which is Melissa's dad, submitted his DNA to the company 2023.
I was like, oh, is that a new one? This...
Thanks, because I read a date to when he did it as I said that, so I was like, yeah, okay. Cool.
This episode is unhinged, and I'm kind of here for it.
So, okay, so he submitted his DNA to the company 23andMe in November of 2022. I've low-key always wanted to do that, but I'm a stingy bitch and I don't want to pay for it.
Fair, yeah.
So, Jeffrey's DNA matched with 3 people.
Dun, dun, dun.
They were the children of a Melanie and John Brown. No, I'm not related to them. And everyone was like, we don't know a Melanie or John Brown. Who the fuck are these people? So, obviously, calls were made and everything like that, and they were like, could it be that Melanie is Melissa? So, obviously, once that happened, they contacted Melanie. I'm going to refer to her as Melissa, both of the rest of it, by the way. So they contacted Melissa and they were like, hey, do you mind doing a DNA test? We want to see what it is. Make sure you are. And it turns out that she was Melissa Highsmith, the toddler who had gone missing 52 years prior.
What?
So, Sharon Highsmith, which is Melissa's younger sister, wrote on Facebook a status, which is low-key kind of funny. She says, "We are beyond thrilled to announce that we found Melissa. There are so many details we would like to share, but for now we would just like to say that we followed a 23andMe family DNA match that led us to her. Our finding Melissa was purely because of DNA, not because of any police/FBI involvement," bit of a dig, "podcast involvement, or even our family's own private investigations or speculations. DNA wins this search."
There's so much that DNA, like...
No, literally though.
I mean, Golden State Killer...
I was literally just about to say that. Because wasn't
Which,
that
that
the
also
distant
was, like...
relative of his?
Yeah, because that
I
also
think so,
was
yeah, I
like
was gonna
23andMe or one of those kinds of
I
DNA
can't remember.
test situations, and it was
that a family member did, and then it turned out...
yeah,
Oh,
and that it matched the DNA in the database or whatever.
Yeah. Killer DNA.
So it's really, like, it's really interesting to think about what the future can bring with DNA, but also, like, what the next big... Because, 30 years ago... Well, I suppose 30 years ago, no, 50 years ago in 1971, they wouldn't have been using DNA. They probably didn't... I don't think they even knew that it existed or, like, much about it.
Yeah, so I've quickly just read it, and it was... The police were combing... Because the police for the Golden State Killer had DNA from the crime scenes, but obviously no one to match it to. They were just kind of combing through a search place called GED Match, which is an open source genealogy website that matches... that makes users' genetic information available for anyone. You don't have to use a court or anything like that. So they did that, and they used that to fuck this guy, because he's a piece of shit.
Yeah.
But anyway, how exciting, after 52 years, 23andMe, and they found her. So, Melissa's brother met her first, and then obviously she got reunited with the rest of the person, but Melissa had no idea that she was missing. She was living in Fort Worth when she was found. Yeah. So the same county, or the fuck it is, I don't know, America.
So it's like...
that she was kidnapped from.
It's like when they took the Stainer boy, and they just took him 2 suburbs away, and he was going to school and everything, like, just literally 10 minutes down the fucking road.
No idea.
Oh.
And she's quoted as saying that she turned around to the person that raised her and was like, "Is there anything you need to tell me?" And the person who raised her was just kind of like, "Yeah, you were baby Melissa." So, like, she literally says, "The person that raised me, I asked her, 'Is there anything you need to tell me?' And it was confirmed that she knew I was baby Melissa, so that just made it real." So, that's not really where the twist kind of ends. So, she was raised under the name Melanie Waldron, but it turns out that the woman who raised her was not her kidnapper. But rather...
Do you think that they... Because, like, Melissa to Melanie, it's not a huge jump. Because, what, she was 2?
Well, she was 2. She was 2 and she was kidnapped, so I feel like they couldn't have changed her name very much.
Like, they went with something that still had a similar nickname, so that they could just keep saying Mel. And have her respond.
That makes sense to me. For sure. Because if you just kept, like, she would already be familiar with the Mel part. So you just kept saying, "Melissa, Melissa, Melissa, come on, Melissa." Like,
she's not a dog.
Babies are practically dogs.
That's the episode name. Well, I'm out of soju, so I'm just going to quickly get more. I don't have much left in any bottles, so I just had watermelon. Do I want a little bit of apple, a little bit of grape,
fruit salad,
or a little bit of lychee? Or I could mix all three.
Make a fruit salad.
Okay. Lychee, grape, and apple. That's a traditional fruit salad, I think.
Fruit salad? Yummy, yummy, yummy.
Anyway, tell me a tale.
Okay. So the mum who turned out not to be the kidnapper revealed that she had actually purchased Melissa in 1972. So that was a year, technically the next year, but like it was August 1971 when she was kidnapped. So like realistically, it was a couple of months for $500, which in today's economy is $3,146.10. Pretty cheap for a baby.
Yeah. Considering I've been told from people trying IVF that like one shot of splooge is like $1,500 or some shit.
No, literally though. Like honestly, it's so much easier to just go fuck a stranger.
Did you know that apparently if it's a local donor, they come to your house and then come in your house?
I just don't know how I feel about that. I'd be like, can you do it in your car and then just like give it to me fresh?
That's illegal!
It's illegal to wank in the car.
Yes, that's if you're parked on the road or anything, that's public indecency. We've had this conversation.
Just like it's not that indecent. Why are people looking inside your car?
Why are people jacking off inside their car?
So that they can deliver it fresh.
They could just go into your bathroom
without going inside. That's fucking weird. I wouldn't want some stranger just coming into my house and wanking in my bathroom and then like leaving the splooge there and then leaving. I'd be like, cool, can you like there we go. I could let them use my carport and they could like stay in their car and do it and then just like leave it on my back step. That's not illegal.
Do you like it when they leave it on your back step? Next time he asks, where do you want it? Just leave it on my back step.
I'll be sure to tell him that. I'll be like, on my back step. So just edge yourself and then run to the other side of the house where my back step is.
I was referring to your butt. Well, like your back.
Oh, my bum!
That's your back step!
I was envisioning my actual back step. Yours makes a little bit more sense. Anyway, fuck me, I literally have like a sentence left. So investigations continue into what happened all those years ago, but apparently it's been fucking nothing. Like, I really just don't think they're gonna be able to find anything because she used a fake name. It was the fucking 70s. Like, fuck me if they couldn't find her then. I don't think they're gonna find her 50 odd years later. So, but unfortunately, even if they do find her, the statute of limitations ended in 2007.
Oh.
So the abductor faces no legal repercussions. Which I feel like it's kind of shady, because, like, what if this whole time bitch has just been going and stealing babies and selling them?
Yeah, I was just about to say, like, do you think she's done it any other times?
I mean, she did it really well, so like, it really surprised me.
Yeah.
But also, like, look at those photos of Melissa. Oh, by the way,
that's the reunion, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
So the top photo is her with her mom and her dad. So cute little fucking cowgirl boots, because she's so adorable. By the way, she has decided to go back to Melissa. That's why I kept calling her Melissa. She doesn't want to be named Melanie.
That's right. I think I remember you telling me that.
The second photo, I'm pretty sure, is the dad in the peach-coloured shirt, Melissa, her mom, and then I think that might be one of her brothers and his brother's wife, and then I think the guy in the white, yellow shirt is like a Jesus person.
Oh, okay.
And then the one with her sitting on the couch with a lady in glasses, that's one of her sisters.
Yeah.
And then obviously you have the photos of her as a baby, because she's so cute. But also, like, you can totally fucking see, if you look at her baby photos and then you look at her, you're like, that's that bitch.
Yeah, it is. Like, their faces, I mean, it's a lot older, but...
Why do we have a rat's bumhole?
I was just about to ask the same thing. You sent that.
Of course I did, but... Was I trying to show you rat balls and then I found the bumhole picture?
I think so, yeah. There was context about rat balls in the Christmas episode. I just don't remember what it was. That was a month ago, and I've had several drinks since then. I don't remember, and I know that you won't, but I don't think that we actually acknowledge that there are some big similarities between your case and my case.
You're right on me not remembering.
In the factor of... 2 factors, actually. Stolen children and no repercussions. Or no legal repercussions. So, for this one, I decided to really channel my inner Kirsten. So firstly, well... It's a true crime, a solved crime.
And there's women.
It's Australian. And the lead player, the central character of this tale...
She's a lady!
So I hit the Kirsten trifecta.
Whoa, she's a lady. You know what's funny? Is I didn't think I had anything ready to do next time. But when I was looking at my... interwebs collections, I just saw one that simply says eyeball killer. I'm very excited to see what the fuck that means.
Maybe eyeball that story before you commit to it.
I like the pun, but I'm going to commit to it.
Hang on, I'm trying to get it so that I'm on top of you instead of next to you.
You like being on top? Twinsies.
There we go.
Wait, kidding, no.
Well, I need to see my notes. But when we initially started talking about doing this podcast, I think it was decided that we were going to do different things and that I was going to do, like, mysteries and cults. And then I kind of scrapped the cults and swapped it to the unknown in general so that I could, like, also cover, like, paranormal, ghosty shit too sometimes. Well... At the time of writing these notes, I had just heard about this and was like, oh, that's really interesting. I need to look into it more. Then we didn't record that episode 2 weeks later. So then I also was like, I heard about this like nearly a month ago. And then I also haven't seen it again. But it actually worked in our favor that we're redoing it because I think like the week that episode was supposed to air, Netflix added the 3-episode docuseries from 2019. And I was like, oh, we can watch this. So I watched that and it actually gave me some extra information. But I had heard about this and I was like, this is insane. I need to tell someone about it. Or I need to just like read about it. And the more I read about it, I'm like, I need to talk about this. So I decided, fuck it. I am doing my thing and I'm doing what I want and I'm covering a cult. It's a solved crime, whatever. And then I'm like, it'll be fine. It's a woman, it's Australian, Kirsten will love it. So. Oh, apparently that's all in my notes and I just ad-libbed it and didn't need to. Cool.
Love that. Good work.
Well, today I will be telling you about... And you don't remember any of this, do you? Okay, cool. Get ready for a wild ride, because she's a fucking doozy. So, today I will be telling you the doozy of a story about Anne Hamilton Byrne and the family.
Which is a different family.
Not to be confused... Yes. Not to be confused with the family murders, which was another Australian case that I covered. That one occurred in Adelaide.
Adelaide, if you will.
And this one happened in Victoria. And both cases do involve children and not great things happening to them, just in vastly different ways.
Yay!
We're not going to talk about Adelaide, the family. But what we are going to talk about is some fun facts about Melbourne. Which, for those who don't know, is the capital city of Victoria. Which...
Oh, I think you
'cause
mean...
this doesn't happen in Melbourne, but it's like... Oh, Melbourne, sorry. Melbourne.
Yeah, down in Melbourne, Australia.
So, Australia's first traffic lights were installed in Melbourne in 1912, and they were at the corner of Collins and Swanston Street. And I remember telling you last time that I've been to Melbourne a total of 2 times.
I would cry.
And I know exactly where that intersection is.
I have been to Melbourne once and I don't know where that intersection is, but also I think I would cry if I ever had to drive in Melbourne. Because looks terrifying.
They have trams and they have like random separate points that you can go to turn off. I was like, what? I don't drive, and just as someone walking on the street watching the cars gave me anxiety. But yeah, that is like... So Swanston Street is like the big... Collins Street is... one of the two is like the big one down the middle that has like the strip of all the shops and the H&M and EB Games and then Collins Street is one of the ones that goes across because you got like Flinders Street, Flinders Alleyway or Flinders Lane, and then Lane. Collins Street, Collins Lane.
Yeah, okay.
Because they do it that way. And I think it's like where the Melbourne City Hall is or something. I'm picturing it in my head. Like I know that specific corner. Perfectly. Which is whack, because like I said, I've been there fucking twice.
Yeah, but Melbourne's really nice. Like, I really like Melbourne.
Yeah, it is beautiful. I love Melbourne. I want to go there again. In 1970, Victoria became the first place in the world to enforce seatbelt legislation.
Look at Australia go. Once again, caring about people's safety.
According to the RSPCA, Melbourne is the fox capital of the world, with a startling 6 to 23 foxes per square kilometre in central Melbourne.
Jesus. I actually saw a lot of foxes on my way to and from New South Wales this past weekend. I almost ran over 2.
I have never seen a fox.
I didn't, but I almost ran over 2.
That doesn't surprise me. Have you seen Flinders Street Station, the train station? It's this gorgeous, like, it's almost Indian in style.
Yeah, it does look like...
Like, it's very like, Asian style.
It doesn't look like a white man built it. Well,
it doesn't quite match with the rest of the buildings of Melbourne, which have like a very like Gothic style. It's very Gothic, yeah. There's a reason for that.
Oh my god, I remember this. Didn't someone like fuck up and like somewhere in India has like a Melbourne style train station?
Yes. So the same firm was making the plans for Flinders Street Station in Melbourne, and also for a terminus that I'm not even going to try to say.
What's a terminus?
I think it's like where buses...
Oh, like a terminal.
I think it's a similar thing, like a station. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, a station in Mumbai. They were both being designed at the same time by the same firm, and when they were sent off to... when the blueprints were sent off to the appropriate parties to construct them, they got switched. So, in the middle of India, there is a Gothic-style station in Mumbai.
I love that.
And in the middle of Melbourne is an East Indian-inspired station.
Can you imagine being the one who was responsible for that fuck-up, though? Like, they're like, hey, so, kind of too late to do anything now, but, like, you know how we designed that, like, super cute, like, Indian-looking place for India and that, like, Gothic vibey place for Melbourne? Yeah, I'm so mad I sent the wrong one to the wrong country. What did you say? I'm gonna send the wrong
And they're like 2/3 of the way into construction, so like it's too late to fix
But like
it.
I might have sent the wrong one.
Because I do remember seeing it and being like, that, like it's beautiful, but it doesn't make
Like,
sense.
what's with the vibe here, guys?
And now that I've seen that fact, I'm like, oh my god, that makes so much sense. So, Melbourne was originally going to be named Batmania.
That's a terrible name. I'm so
after
glad
one
they
of
changed
its
it.
after one of its founding fathers, John Batman.
Batman's lame, so whew.
He is, I agree. Superman is where it's at.
Spider-Man.
Until 1966, it was illegal for pubs in Melbourne to be open after 6 p.m, which, like,
What's the point?
what is even the fucking point? Like, okay. Which that then led me to doing my other favorite thing, looking into weird laws in Victoria. You and I would immediately be in trouble. It is an offense to fly a Fucking hell, I can't read now. It is an offense to fly a kite to the annoyance of any person or sing an obscene song or ballad in a public place in Victoria.
So you can't have fun?
Yeah.
That's what I'm getting from this.
In Victoria, making unreasonable noise with a vacuum cleaner after 10 p.m. or before 7 a.m. on weekdays and 9 a.m. on weekends is considered an offence.
Okay, I agree with the AM
Police-
stuff, but I have vacuumed my house
It should be
many a times at like 11 o'clock at night.
It should be illegal everywhere.
Yeah, like I live in a house, you can't really hear my vacuum.
Police or the council can order you to stop making noises, and failure to abide can result in a fine of up to $18,655.20, with an additional fine up to $4,663.80 per day for continued violations. Why are fine amounts always so weirdly specific?
Do not know. I do not understand it.
According to Section 70C of Crimes Act 1958, corresponding or doing business with pirates is illegal and can result in 10 years imprisonment.
I don't know any pirates, but like, what if I accidentally do it?
Well, you're going to jail for 10 years!
That's so cute.
And under the Vagrancy Act of 1966, it is against the law to pretend to tell people's fortunes, or to use witchcraft or crafty science, for that matter, to discover where stolen goods might be found.
What?
So, yeah.
That makes
I'm not
sense.
sure what's going on there,
Sure.
but that's a thing too. Which leads me to a quick pee break before I finally dive into my case, because it's been like 2 hours and that's unheard of.
I'm very proud of you.
I like crusty spoons.
It wigs me out how fucking well you do that.
Can I please use your telegraph?
No, fuck off is always the appropriate response.
Can I use your telegraph?
No, because I don't have one, you dumb cunt.
That's fucking rude.
Why would I have a telegraph in this day and age?
So, as I said earlier, this week I will be covering The Family. But before we dive into that, what we should actually do is take a little dive, talk a little bit about how it came to be and the woman behind The Family, one Anne Hamilton Byrne.
I'm going to say Anne Hathaway.
Yes, Anne Hathaway.
And I was like, she's really cool.
Okay, so we're going to talk about Anne Hamilton Byrne. Are you ready? Evelyn Grace Victoria Edwards was born in Sale, Victoria in December
Wait,
of
what?
1921.
This is a different bitch.
What?
This is a different bitch.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
They're literally a different name.
No, I said the same name.
No, you didn't. Stop lying to me.
Yeah. I told you we're going to talk about Anne Hamilton Byrne.
Didn't you say something about Victoria?
What? No, they're in Victoria. Are you even listening to me?
Yes, and I'm convinced you said two different female names.
We're talking about Anne Hamilton Byrne. Stop playing games on your phone.
I'm updating our calendar.
Pay attention.
Mister, she never updates our calendar.
Right this second isn't the time to do it. I'm telling you a story.
I'm listening very intently.
Okay. So Evelyn Grace Victoria Edwards
You
was born in
fucking
Sale,
did say Victoria!
Yeah, because she was born in Sale, Victoria.
Who the fuck is Evelyn? I don't even remember the first bitch's name now. There's too many names.
We'll get to it. Evelyn Grace Victoria Edwards was born in Sale, Victoria in December of 1921. Do you know what's great? Is the first time I told you this, you didn't even react to the fact that I told you two different names.
I was just kind of like, oh, it is, okay.
So, her mother was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia after setting her hair alight in the street.
Oh.
I don't know if she means her own hair or her daughter's hair. I'm assuming her own hair.
But like, are we talking leg hair, arm hair, armpit hair?
Head hair.
I figured this much.
Head
I just
hair.
wanted to envision someone setting their armpit hair on fire.
Why envision when you can watch me do it live on TV?
This episode of Prep
so-
Free My Head podcast.
Third degree burns incoming.
In an inconvenient spot.
I don't think there's such a thing as a convenient spot to have third degree burns, Kirsten.
Fair. But I just like your arm
So-
terrible spot.
Her mother was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia after setting her hair alight in the street, and she spent 27 years in a psychiatric asylum where she eventually died. And her father was an itinerant worker, which I found out from the docuseries. He was a railroad worker.
A whale worker. He was
a railroad worker.
Railroad worker.
So he was like in and out of town all the time. So she actually reportedly spent a lot of time being in and out of orphanages as a child. Just randomly checking my Audacity to make sure it's recording because I'm paranoid.
Ah! Yeah, mine is. I just like to see the spike.
Oh my god. So here's where I got differing information. Some of it lines up. I'll go with what I'd originally written, and then I'll fill you in with what I actually learned from the docuseries.
Okay.
Because all of this was written off of my research on the internet, and then I watched the series after, and was like, oh, that clarifies that a bit. So it's no surprise that as soon as she was able to, she left home, married, and changed her name to Anne Hamilton, except she didn't change her name straight away, it turns out. I thought that she married a man whose last name was Hamilton, but that's not the case.
Oh.
So this is a quote from Rosie Jones, who is one of the documentarians behind both a 2016 feature film and the 2019 three-part investigation on ABC that I'm talking about that's now on Netflix. It's called The Family Inside the Cult or something. Let me double check. I had it open up just before. It is fascinating. I highly recommend that you go and watch it after listening to this. Just know it is heartbreaking. I am glad that I had the advantage of actually knowing the story and a lot of the information going into it, because that did kind of
Prepare
make
you.
it easier. It's called The Cult of the Family. It's 3 episodes. It's about 3 hours long.
Oh, that's not too bad.
We did it all in one night, which coincidentally was the exact same night that my mother was watching it, so...
It's really romantic.
I know. So yeah, Rosie Jones is a documentarian behind a 2016 feature film, that 2019 3-part docuseries, and also a co-author of the book on the family.
Damn, she's really invested.
Mm-hmm. Anne married her first husband when she was about 20, but he died in a car accident. It's quite tragic, really. They had 1 daughter together, and there have been rumours that she suffered a number of miscarriages after that. It's only recently come to light that she and her husband were arranging to adopt a baby right before he died. So that's what I originally had in my notes. And then what I found out from the docuseries is that her first husband, she married at the age of 20. His name was Lyle. I couldn't tell if it was Lyle or Lionel Harris. And he was a corporal in, like, the Australian Armed Forces. But 2 years after she gave birth to their daughter, which is her only biological child, he actually applied to leave the armed forces as he was really deeply concerned for her mental health. She had started exhibiting abnormal behavior toward the child, specifically, and just in general. Apparently, her physicians the best description her physicians gave it as she was depressed and neglecting her own child. So I'm thinking it was maybe some kind of like
post-traumatic,
postpartum.
Oh, thank you. I couldn't remember the
depression. I don't know how long that goes for though, because this was 2 years after she'd given birth.
It can vary on like case to case. The woman, the circumstances, like their previous history with mental health, like all of that jazz. I don't think it's exactly like well, the kid's 3 months old, you should be done by now.
Yeah. And then he, in 1955, so that would have been like nearly 20 years later, he was a car salesman, and he actually died, as we know, in a car accident.
It's kind of ironic.
Unfortunately, they were in the process of trying to adopt a baby boy at that time, and in the 50s in Australia, it was not possible for a woman on her own.
I don't think it's very easy
to
now
adopt.
to do that.
No. But it was, like, not at all possible. So the second she lost her husband, she also lost her baby boy.
Yeah.
Which is when she actually underwent cosmetic surgery and took elocution lessons, which are speech lessons and, like, etiquette, and changed her name. And so that is when Anne Hamilton was born.
I just feel like Evelyn is bougier than Anne.
Yeah, but she really wanted to get away from that.
No, like I feel like I get what she's trying
like,
to do. She's like, nah, I don't want to be the fucking widow who also couldn't adopt a baby. I want to be Anne, this boss-ass bitch. But I'm just saying, like, I feel like Evelyn is more...
I agree. But yes, so initially I was like, oh, okay, so she got Hamilton from her first husband, and then he died, and then that's
it.
How it went. And then we're watching the docuseries, and it got into the information of, so, Lyle Harris, and I'm like,
who the fuck is
did
Harris?
Hamilton come from? And then the second, like, they go, he's dead. I'm like, yeah, we know that. And then they're like, but that didn't stop her. She underwent cosmetic surgery. I'm like, because it made sense looking at all the photos of her so much younger. I was like, that's a different woman. And it also makes sense as to why she looked the way she did in her 90s. But yeah, so that is the origin. That's her origin story.
Okay.
So, Anne first became attracted to religions and mysticism in the 1950s. So, probably leading up to or around about the same time that her husband died. And then that's probably in the same time period that she's having her elocution lessons. She's learning to speak and... I mean, she knew how to speak, but, like, how to speak and hold a room.
Be a bougie badass bitch.
And now, in that time period, in her mid-30s, she took up yoga, which she started to teach in the early 60s. And this is where she... What? So yeah, she started teaching in the early 60s, and it would seem that she quickly began to gain quite the following. So she had, like, a lot of people coming to her lessons. She was a very popular yoga teacher, like, talking about mysticism, and where she actually struck out was when she crossed paths with one Dr. Rayner Johnson. So he was the master of Queen's College at Melbourne University at the time. Like a very well-respected scientist. But he was kind of bored of science and wanted to start looking into more unconventional things like spiritualism and things of the like. So, I believe it was about 1961, 1962 at this point, and that tracks because spiritualism was, like, already quite popular, but it was also starting to gain popularity within scientific circles. Like, they were like, oh, well, we'll give it some food for thought. We won't completely write it out. Rayner was nearing retirement, and so he was eager, reportedly, to explore this unconventional field, and was also reportedly quite taken with Anne immediately. Like, just besotted by her. Keep in mind, he's married, and it doesn't sound like it was like a romantic attraction. He was just completely taken by her. And she also claimed to have extrasensory perception. ESP. And her boobs can feel when it's raining.
There's a 60% chance that it's raining right now.
So he even went as far as to declare her the new Messiah.
Oh. That's...
So the following are excerpts recorded in his diary about Anne. Her face became divinely beautiful with sublime authority.
Ew.
And later, unquestionably the wisest, the serenest, and most gracious and generous soul I have ever met.
Fuck me, if I was his
Grab
wife.
your glass, because it's worth noting that both of these notes were written after he was finished experimenting with LSD.
Fair.
So, just to give you an idea of, like, exactly who this enchanting, beguiling woman was,
This hot piece
I'm
of
going to
ass.
read you. Yes. And there are the images of her in the chat from last time as well, if you want to scroll up and have a look at her. She is
bring
pretty.
them up to have a gaze at her. She does, like, low-key look like two different people from the Ranger photo to the blonde photo.
Yes. And there's a lot of home video recorded footage of her as well throughout the docuseries, which I will touch on when it comes up. So, I'm going to read you the opening paragraph of an article from The Guardian because I just really loved how it summed it up, and I couldn't bring myself to reword it. Like, I didn't think I would be able to do it justice like this did. It just gives it a real good picture.
Yeah.
Anne Hamilton Byrne wore pearls and Chanel perfume. She played the harp and she sang soprano. She had blonde hair styled in waves that caught the light. Much of her power, say her former followers, lay in her grey-blue eyes. In ancient times, we hear about enchantresses who could enslave people with one glance, says ex-acolyte Fran Parker. She had eyes that looked through your soul. Hamilton Burns' ultimate tool of enslavement, however, was something she pinpointed herself in a rare radio interview after the cult's devastating abuses were exposed. It was love. Just love. Anne wasn't giving love, says Parker, whose young son was one of Hamilton Burns' victims. She was offering it and then taking it back. She broke people's spirit.
Jesus.
Yeah. So that's Anne.
Sounds like a really, stellar human.
Yeah. Well, now that you know a little bit about Anne, let's really get into it.
I don't want to.
Well, you have to. So, when Anne met Rayner and beguiled him, that was the start of the family. Also known as... Oh, fuck, I haven't had to say this word in a while. Also known as the Santa Nikitin Park Association.
Oh, God.
Or the Great White Brotherhood.
That sounds really racist and inappropriate.
Potentially. And by 1964, Anne and Rayner were hosting regular meetings in his Ferny Creek home, which would actually grow to be known as Santa Nikitin Park, as they purchased the surrounding property to turn it into the family's base of operations. So they'd host regular meetings there, with Anne giving weekly meditation sessions and sermons, or as she liked to call them, discourses, which she reportedly did from a purple throne as their high priestess. I kept reading about this purple throne.
Did you find a picture?
And I didn't find a picture. It showed up in the documentary, but let me see. Because I'd kept hearing about it, being like, oh, picturing this really majestic throne, and then they showed it, and it was just like
a velvet throne with gold accents.
Yeah, which is kind of what it was. It was kind of just like a chair, it was kind of just an upholstered chair in purple velvet. I was picturing kind of what you've described, but like a dining table chair.
Oh yeah, that's what I meant.
Whereas I was picturing like an actual full, big, tall chair.
It's 'cause you're a nerd.
Not just like...
The rest of us have to...
I hear throne and I don't picture a dining table chair.
No. Picture a dining chair.
There was a still of, there was a shot of it at one point in the docuseries, but I'm not going to go through all 3 hours to try and find one still.
I'll just see it when I watch it.
Now, obviously, every cult or new age group, as they preferred to be called, requires some kind of philosophy or religion to unify everyone, and the family was no different. So she was preaching... From what I could gather, she was preaching like a kind of a mishmash of Christianity and mysticism. So like Eastern religion meets Western religion. Literally just balls to the wall, throwing everything in the mix.
Mm.
With a healthy dose of post-apocalyptic prophecy and hallucinogens.
Everything
sounds like a good recipe to me. So, essentially, the philosophy of the family was based on the belief that Anne Hamilton Byrne was Jesus Christ himself, reincarnated as a woman, and that she was a living god. And the members were building. I'm not sure how quickly, but what I read said that by the 80s, it had hit 500. And those members were not just hippies looking to have fun with LSD and play with crystals. They were wealthy professionals, including doctors, psychiatrists, lawyers, and nurses. All thanks to the reach that Rayna's intellectual respectability gave Anne when it came to recruiting. So she already had the attention of all these people as their yoga teacher. And then she pairs with, like, this super respected intellectual person. And that just gives her so much reach. Now, reportedly, when meeting a potential recruit for the first time, Anne would greet them with, "I've been waiting for you. You are special." Which... bleh. And one potential recruit that she met was extra special. I'm not sure when she met him, but at some point she met William Byrne, whom she would later marry sometime in the 70s. But it didn't bother her that he was already married when she met him.
Minor detail.
Minor detail.
What are you gonna do?
I'm not sure of the specifics, but I'm pretty sure she even was instrumental in the demise of his initial marriage, so that he would marry her. She's Jesus. She can do what she wants. What are you going to do? Nail her to a cross? Mm-hmm. Didn't work last time. Because that's the part that got Mateo. He's watching it and he's like, wait, so she's reincarnated? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, oh, so it's like Eastern religion. I'm like, yeah. And he's like, but she's Jesus Christ. I'm like, yeah. And he's like, so
at
that's
this point, they're just
Western.
They're taken from...
And I'm like, yeah, she's just...
They're taken from every religion. They're like, you know what? A little bit of Buddhism, a little bit of Christianity. Fuck, maybe we'll throw in some Islam.
Anyway, you're probably wondering how exactly she managed to convince all these wealthy, intelligent professionals that she was the reincarnation of Jesus Christ.
She's a white woman with money.
Oh no, she had a very specific way that she did it.
Did she drug them?
Well, let me tell you what she did, and it's a doozy. Because she didn't actually do it. One of her minions did it, because I found out, I thought that this was a ceremonial ritual that she had them partake in, because that's what I read. But, no. So this thing called a clearing that she had them partake in was not actually a ceremonial ritual that was part of the religion. So it turns out that one of her minions, a psychiatrist, a very high-level psychiatrist, I think working in a mental hospital. Some of these were cult members.
Oh, fuck me.
Some of these were just people that he grabbed.
What?
None of them gave consent or even knew what they were doing. They were administered a large dose of LSD and put in a dark room.
No, that's so mean.
When later the door would open.
Oh, for fuck's sake! And it was
to a hallway full of light. To a hallway full of light. So there's light coming in from this doorway, and in that doorway,
a light at the end of the tunnel with some white bitch wearing white.
Hold up. Standing there in the doorway in a white flowing gown, just like moving in the breeze.
She's probably wearing like a fucking
And here's the kicker. Here's the kicker.
Someone was behind
her.
With a fan, making it blow in the breeze.
Behind her was a bucket of dry ice.
Oh my
shrouding
God!
her in a light mist. So if you are seriously tripping balls on LSD and you see that, you damn fucking believe and are convinced with no doubt that you are looking upon the almighty Jesus Christ reincarnated as a woman. No doubt in your mind, like...
No questions, you're just like, oh, that white lady, that's Jesus.
That's Jesus, because a door just opens and there she is surrounded by... mist. Like, but of all the fucking things, a bucket of dry ice.
Well, it's not like they had a smoke machine handy, Jeremy. It would make too much noise.
That's true. Have we got our giggles out?
Oh, God.
Do we want to giggle a little bit longer? Let's just think about the dry eyes. But it... Yeah, because initially everything that I read was like, oh, she had them partake in this ceremony or ritual called a clearing. I'm like, oh, it's like a rite of passage. And then watching the docuseries, it was like, no, this psychiatrist literally was drugging people against their will, against their knowledge. Some of them weren't even, like, members of the group. And I'm like, oh, I don't like that.
She gets better.
Well, here's where it takes a turn. Remember how I mentioned that children eventually play a part in this tale?
I was really hoping you were just going to leave that out and we were going to stop here.
Around 1968...
No.
Actually, what I'm going to do is, instead of me telling you, I've got quotes directly from a CBS article, which I now also know are also directly from the docuseries, which are quotes from two of the children, now as adults, that were affected, Adam Lancaster and Dave Whitaker. Under the influence of LSD, she had this vision that she's got to, like, collect all these children from birth. Because the end of the world was coming. Most of the population of the world's going to perish. She was preparing us to re-educate the world. What's left of it.
Don't love that.
So, between 1968 and 1975, Anne and her husband Bill adopted, more accurately, acquired 14 infants and young children,
Oh, no.
with the number eventually reaching a total of 28, ranging from toddlers to teens. So all of these children were given the surname Hamilton Byrne, and they were told that Anne was their biological mother. She also consistently... She was seemingly constantly pregnant, always wearing bigger, baggier dresses and having, like, the thing there to, like, make it look like she was pregnant, so she would stuff her knickers or whatever. I don't know how you make a fake belly back in the 70s.
Let me just get some, like, a cushion insert and put it in, and then the way you walk and everything like that will also help, like, realistically, like...
She even went to specific lengths to make them look like her.
Ew.
So Adam Lancaster said, we all did look the same. We all had blonde, bleached hair. Not all of us. Some had red hair, because Auntie Anne was actually naturally a redhead. So Adam is the only one that calls her Auntie Anne because... Which I was confused when I saw that, but it made sense watching the docuseries because he was actually...
I was literally about to ask. I thought they all thought that she was biological.
He was one of the kids that was adopted to a family that were like, her like, in her pocket, very high up.
Okay.
So it was their biological son and him. And literally the parents had told him, had told the biological son when he was old enough to figure it out, don't you ever tell him that he's adopted. We fear for his safety if he finds out, like, for his own safety, but from his own hand or something along those lines. And he refused to believe it until, like, recent years or something, and has actually reconnected with his biological family.
Oh, that's cute then.
If that's the guy that I'm thinking of, I think it is. But, like, he was adamant that the woman that he called mum couldn't have been involved in this for a very long time. And she was very heavily involved. Which is part of why the docuseries is so heartbreaking. So that's what those images from the chat are. Of them all dressed uniformly, like, very Children of the Corn.
So you mean, like...
In the blonde hair. Yeah, and there's a lot of home video footage of the children as well, which I'll comment on as we get a bit further as well. But that was really eye-opening and just kind of added to this case as I was watching it. So, they were told to refer to every other adult in the family as auntie and uncle, even though in some cases they were actually talking to their parents.
Oh.
And they didn't know.
That's really
How did
gross.
she Yeah. How did she acquire these children, you ask?
She brainwashed the parents into giving them to her?
A little bit. Through a combination of convincing members of the family to surrender their children to her,
Ew.
and taking advantage of the fact that at the time, adoption was poorly regulated in Australia, and there was still a lot of stigma around being an unwed mother. Not to mention, she had all of these professionals, like doctors, nurses, and lawyers, under her thumb. Some, one of the detectives or reporters in the docuseries was like, basically you have a baby born in a sect hospital to a sect doctor, handed to a sect nurse, and within hours, it's passed off to the sect.
Yeah.
Sarah Moore, who was one of Anne's children, didn't find out the truth until she was an adult.
Ew.
She says, "The cult doctor arranged for my biological mother to be drugged and made to sign an adoption form. During my birth, a pillow was put over her head, she was given major tranquilizers, and as soon as I was born, I was taken away instantly. She wasn't
God.
even allowed to see me or look at me."
Aww.
Yeah. So, and literally, they talk about the process of just how insane it was to be backtracking once the children were recovered, to go back and have to try and knock on people's doors and be like, did you have a child around this time? Because we think that we might have. Because,
Imagine that, like, re-trauma. Like, you have the baby, you deal with that trauma, and then years later they're like, hello, found your child.
Yeah. So, Anne housed these children in a lodge at Lake Eildon, which was 2 hours away from the family's main base at Santanikanan Park, and it was called Kailama, but they also referred to it as Up Top within the family.
That's weird.
This area was reportedly beautiful, but also incredibly isolated, and the children were homeschooled and raised in seclusion with little to no access to or even information about the outside world. Again, from the Guardian article, Hamilton Byrne wanted to be the perfect mother figure to a perfect brood, but she seemed to have no interest in raising them. If she was there when any of the children stepped out of line, they say she would often beat them herself. Her weapon of choice was a stiletto shoe. But mostly, she left it to the aunties, a number of middle-aged female followers, who feared for their own precarious place in her affections if they didn't enforce punishments. The children were also often starved for days for minor transgressions, and that's where that became really evident, showing all of the home footage, because literally one of them being interviewed said, like, we weren't being fed, we were sheltered, but then they wanted all of these, they wanted these videos of all of us kids smiling and playing and euphoric, and you know how they got that? They just went, here's a piece of chocolate.
Oh, fuck.
And it was like, and there'll be more chocolate later. So of course we were in high spirits. We were, like, I cannot put into words just how heartbreaking it was to watch the thing, but at the same time, just how important and fascinating it was.
Yeah.
They also recall being fed psychiatric drugs such as oxazepam, diazepam, which is more commonly known as Valium, and nitrazepam, also known as Mogadon. I personally am familiar with oxazepam and diazepam. I've had both of those. They're both sedatives. Don't like it. Oxazepam is highly addictive. And I'm pretty sure it's often used... I think it's used... I was given it when I was weaning off of one SSRI and had to have 2 weeks without before I started the next one.
Yeah.
So I was using that in the moment as a sedative for anxiety issues, but I think it's also used to treat symptoms of alcoholism withdrawals, but it's highly addictive. And then diazepam or Valium, I hated Valium. Like, every time I took it, I had severe brain fog until 4 p.m. the next day.
Jesus.
So, they were given those psychiatric drugs to keep them docile and complacent. And then at age 14, the children would be subjected to a formal initiation into the cult with their own clearing. Where, again, they would be fed huge, relentless doses of LSD in trips that often lasted for several days. These prolonged doses were harrowing even for the adult followers, and the effects were catastrophic and long-term on some of the young teenagers who suffered depression, personality changes, nightmares, and social withdrawal, on top of all the other childhood traumas they'd endured. LSD can alter your brain irreparably as an adult, so I cannot even begin to, imagine the damage it would do to a teenage brain which isn't fully formed yet, and not in the capacity of they just tried it once to give it a go, massive, relentless doses on top of other trauma. And when it comes to trips, your headspace going into it is a massive factor that affects the whole trip.
Yeah, of course.
So I don't think they would have been good trips for these children.
No, probably not.
So, this is one thing that they didn't cover in the docuseries. They just covered that eventually there was a raid, but they never explained how. What brought them to it. So, as from what I could see, I had to actually explain to Mateo the context. They just kind of moved on and went, so eventually this is what happened with the raid. So here's the context I can tell you from what I read. So 2 of the girls, who were both about the same age, Leanne Crease and Sarah Moore, who both heavily feature in the docuseries, so I don't know why they just kind of briefly touched on it and then just went, so here's the raid. I'm like, this is an important part, thank you. They recall dreaming of getting away from the family one day, and at age 15, after a vicious attack from Anne, Leanne retaliated and slapped her back before slipping out of a window and running away. However, the officer that came across her and heard her story, instead of rescuing her, returned her to Kailama, where the aunties told him she was unstable. Miraculously, however, she went unpunished. And 2 years later, she escaped again at age 17. Only to be met with the exact same officer who still didn't listen to her story.
God.
But at least this time he took her to a foster home. So he still didn't listen or believe her, because, well, why would you? Honestly. But he did at least take her to a foster home instead of taking her back. Sarah, on the other hand, remained at Kailama until she also had a fallout with Anne, who essentially excommunicated her from the cult and sent her out into the inside world, out into the outside world to die in a gutter. Also at age 17. So Sarah was quickly taken in by some friendly locals and she was reunited with Leanne. And keep in mind, these girls have experienced so much shit that no one else could even begin to understand. And then on top of that, they're also now out in the real world. And they were taught absolutely nothing about the real world. So it was really good that they had each other for this. I didn't add it to this, but there's literally, Leanne said that she was so naive and knew so little about the world that at one point she remembers walking into a bank and asking them for, like, if they could give her $50 so that she could go buy clothes.
Jesus Christ.
Because she didn't know what a bank was.
No,
and how it worked. She didn't know that she needed the money stored away. However, neither girl could bear the thought of the siblings they had left behind, and so they went to the police with their story. And, like, Leanne's already tried telling them a couple of times, and they didn't believe, but this time they've both gone, and there must have been other information that finally made the police go, okay, yes, we'll look into this. Because it appears that the police did listen to them this time, and on the 14th of August in 1987, there was a raid on Kailama. So at this time, there were only 7 children ranging from 11 to 18 years old on the property. And they were immediately removed from the care of the family and taken to a group home.
Thank fuck.
The other children were reportedly either already off living with their new cult parents.
No.
I read of some that were in boarding schools in England, which I'm not sure. Maybe she just didn't care about those ones as much or was done with them or something. I don't know. There were also several graves on the property.
No.
Yeah. And, like, when they did the investigation, they dug up the graves to confirm that to confirm whether it was animals or something else down there, and I think they were children. I think. I kind of tried to block that part of the docuseries out of my brain. However, Anne was not present on the day of the raid. I believe she was at her property in the Catskills because she had been accumulating quite a bit of wealth, and so they now owned a property in England and a property in the Catskills, which is in New York. And that's where a lot of the home footage comes from as well, because there's videotapes. They must have had, like, their personal videographer or just a friend that was with them all the time, because there's videos of her and Bill at their other properties communicating to the kids and to the cult members, like sending on messages. And in those videos, she's like, it looks like it's a mother sending off a message to her kids being, hi, just an update. We have so much love for you. Bill, tell the kids how much you love them and how much you miss them. And then when she was actually around them, it clearly wasn't the same.
Ew.
So, reportedly, following the... Oh, here's the other thing. Not one single adult that was present during the raid was arrested.
Oh, for fuck's
sake. They literally just took the children and then they left. And reportedly, following the raid, the members of the family were shaken and many actually left, including Bill, who promptly left the country to go and join his wife. While some of the devoted continued to meet at the lodge weekly, where they listened to Anne's pre-recorded audio tapes of sermons or discourses. And it sounds like, at least in 2019, at the time of the docuseries, that some were still active in listening to those tapes. And meeting for the sermons. And, like, practicing. Actively a part of this.
Why are
belief.
people so dumb?
So, for the next 6 years, Bill and Anne stayed out of the country, but an investigation involving police in Australia, the UK, and the US, where they had properties, was in full swing, and this was called Operation Forest. And in 1993, the year of me, they were arrested by the FBI in the Catskills and extradited back to Australia, where they were charged with conspiracy to defraud and to commit perjury, as Anne had tried to falsely register the births of 3 unrelated children as their own triplets. And I don't think it just means unrelated to her. I think it also means unrelated to each other. So she just had 3 different infants of a close enough age that she tried to pass off as her own triplets. These were the only charges that they faced.
I'm sorry, what? They drugged people and, like, fucked them up and abused children.
Okay, so I'll get to all of that in a second. You are very correct, and I was just as outraged as well when I first heard it, when I first read it. By the time it got to seeing the movie, I did actually have the docuseries. I did have an understanding, and I was just as outraged then as well, but I was able to explain to Mateo the reasoning, and he's like, oh, okay, no, that does actually. So despite all the damage they had done, both were punished with nothing more than a $5,000 fine. And this is because... So I found an article that explained why they weren't charged with more and didn't face more punishment, and it basically explained that because none of it could actually be brought to the court without evidence. They simply didn't have any actual evidence to present. Because as far as the adoptions went, papers were signed.
Yeah.
Legally...
Legal.
Yeah, the legal documents were signed. There's no evidence to confirm, hey, it was not that they were under duress or they were pressured into it.
Coercion or anything like that.
They can't take the reports of the people being drugged into account because they were under the influence of LSD. So, like, all of those factors, it's completely fucked, and it is an outrage, but once you actually stop and you look at it that way, you're like, oh, that does actually make sense. Good news is, Anne died in 2019 at age 98. She spent the last of her years... No, she spent the last of her years in a nursing home with dementia. But I feel like what I've just told you has really only just been the tip of the iceberg.
Fuck.
Because,
me.
like, I also found reports about, like, there were people that sued her and got some compensation. There was one woman who paid her... Hang on, let me find it. So in 2009, 2 individuals received financial compensation after suing her. Her granddaughter, her biological granddaughter, I believe, Rebecca Cook Hamilton, who I think also is part of the docuseries, and I'm not sure about her and if she was involved as part of the cult or not. If she was one of the children, I'm not sure. Yes, she must have been. Her granddaughter, Rebecca Cook Hamilton, sued her in 2007 for alleged psychiatric and psychological illnesses. She alleged that she received cruel and inhuman treatment from Hamilton Byrne and her servants, including beatings, being locked in a freezing shed overnight, and being forced to take medications. She also alleged that she was given insufficient food. It was estimated to be $250,000 that her reward. And then a former member of the family, Cynthia Chan, alleged that she paid the sum of $352,000 to Anne for real estate in Victoria. The property was never transferred to her, and she allegedly paid the sum of another $70,000 to Anne Hamilton for another property that also was never transferred to her. Hamilton Burns said she had no memory of the matter, and Chan's judgment also was estimated at $250,000. So not only is she out $420,000 for two properties that she never received, she received back half of that amount.
Oh my god.
And because they were properties, they actually would have appreciated in value.
Yeah.
And she would have earned money from investment there. So she's really been fucked over. But in the 1980s, the police estimated that Anne's fortune could be as much as $50 million that she amassed. And that's in the 80s. Alright, well, it is a school night, and my phone told me about half an hour ago that it's time to go to bed, so I should go to bed.
I'm just tired. So
That's
I'm also gonna go to bed.
standard for you.
Literally,
I'm probably going to watch some Ring doorbell footage for like 20 minutes and then go to bed.
I'm literally going to have a shower and then just fall into my bed and sleep.
That's standard. Let's not leave it a month and let's actually record next week.
No, yeah, let's do that. I'm going to learn about an eyeball killer, apparently.
Cool, I'm going to pick a case and start doing some notes. Alright, well, do you want to do your thing and wrap us up then?
Yep. So, if you want to... My brain just fucked up. Right, if you want to stalk us... No, that's not how I started. I have to say thank you, right? I'm so tired. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Rent Free in My Head. We hope that we've taken over the space in your head and we're not fucking paying for it because we're both broke and tired and get the fuck over it, cunt. You listening. Anyway,
yeah.
If you want to send us some love letters or email us at rfimhpodcast@gmail.com, or if you want to stalk us on social media, rfimh podcast. On pretty much everything, Jeremy is very consistent.
Yeah.
I think even if you just type in Rent Free in My Head in Google.
Oh yeah, a lot of it comes up now.
But what doesn't pop up is our personal accounts. So if you want to go that step further and stalk Jeremy individually, you can find him at
Jeremy Gage.
And you can find me at SoKirstyLee. This is on Instagram. We don't really use any other social media, let's be honest.
Yeah.
But thanks, besties. We missed you, even though you don't talk to us back.
Yeah. What's that about?
Kind of rude, but like pop off, queen.
This is starting to feel very one-sided.
It is. Like,
it's like
my candle jar is very hot.
It's like we're writing letters to the aliens and the aliens aren't responding.
You know what? I'm gonna write a letter to an alien. How do I address it? Aliens. And then do I just do you reckon I could send a letter to one of the space stations? Does Australia have one? I'm assuming we have a section.
Yeah, it's like an international space station. They don't have individual space stations for each country. Space stations.
Obviously not, that seems a bit wasteful, but can I send them a letter? Be like, hey.
I'm sure you could send them a digital letter.
And be like,
I don't think they have Space Post.
It's kind of rude. Ew, it's in South Australia. So
spacey thing for Australia is in South Australia.
I was going to say, the space station should be up in space.
I googled Australia's space station and it just didn't really fucking do much for me, but I love that our fucking space thing, you know how they have NASA? Ours is, arse. Legitimately, it's arse.
I love that.
It is the Australian Research and Space Exploration. I did follow that guy who, like, was selling
I
merch
think
for a
that's
bit.
satire.
You know what? No.
I'm pretty sure that's a satirical page.
It's real. Don't rain on my parade. Anyway, I'm fucking tired. I will figure out later how to send a letter to this aliens, or at least get it to the space station, so it's, like, on the, if aliens invade the space station, they'll find my letter.
Yeah, I was going to say, at the space station, they're astronauts, they're not aliens.
Yeah, but the aliens will find my letter, and they'll be like, wow, let's write her back.
They'll just be like, hang on, aliens, before you invade, we have mail for you.
We have fan mail! So, come on. Anyway, I'm fucking tired. Bye!
Bye! How do I stop recording?